Around the world, I'm Samantha Simmons. At least 23 people have died as violent storms triggered by a tornado ripped through the southern U.S. state of Mississippi.
Ran, got in the bathroom, in the tub with my wife, and all threw pillows over us, and we could hear stuff hitting the roof, a lot of trees down.
Growing tension in France. Riots today in the West after unrest in the capital. Vladimir Putin says Russia has struck a deal with neighbouring Belarus to station tactical nuclear weapons on its territory. And a massive asteroid has passed harmlessly between the orbits of the Earth and the Moon, luckily for us, missing both. This is BBC News with the latest headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world. I'm Samantha Simmons. At least 23 people have died as violent storms triggered by a tornado ripped through the southern U.S. The governor of Mississippi has declared a state of emergency after tornadoes ripped through the U.S. state. At least 23 people have been killed. The authorities say the storm left a trail of damage for more than 150 kilometres. President Biden has called the storms heartbreaking and vowed federal support. One of the worst affected towns is Rolling Fork, where entire neighbourhoods were flattened to rubble. North America correspondent David Willis reports. And a massive asteroid has passed harmlessly between
this is all that remains of the Mississippi town of Rolling Fork. Heavy vehicles were picked up and tossed around like toys after the twister touched down, all but wiping this tight-knit community off the map.
We got new scan coming in here as we speak.
The storm struck at night. The warnings too late for the residents of Rolling Fork and nearby Silver City.
Mississippi has declared a state of emergency after tornadoes ripped through the U.S. state. At least 23 people have been killed.
Dear Jesus, please help them.
The authorities say the storm
around 8:20 we had the tornado sirens going off, warning people to take cover. It happened so fast. Right now we got multiple homes damaged in the Silver City area, also in other parts of the area of the county.
Some survivors likened the sound and the ferocity of the storm to an incoming freight train.
We had to get ourselves into the middle part of the house, and we did, and we got in there, and obviously it was coming right behind us because as soon as we got in there, we heard a big boom.
Even those used to tracking such malevolent forces of nature say the impact took them by surprise.
All the ingredients were in place for a large-scale tornado outbreak, fast-moving supercell storms moving at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. And we were actually chasing storms for about 4 to 5 hours during the day. None were going tornadic, and then right at sunset, it was like a switch was flipped from off to on.
A massive search is now underway for survivors. President Biden described the images as heartbreaking and said he and the First Lady were praying for all who'd lost loved ones. David Willis, BBC News, Washington.
Brian Howarth is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service's southern region.
For now, the worst of the weather is certainly over in Mississippi. Today is going to be fine, but then we do have a chance for some severe weather again tomorrow in Mississippi, but it'll be south of where we had the worst storms last night. As far as how rare this is, we usually get about 4 tornadoes on average in March for Mississippi. When all is said and done and we get all the data
is now underway for survivors.
From the tornadoes last night, I'm thinking we'll have more than 4, so this is definitely above average.
Yeah, I mean, peak severe weather season is where we are now, isn't it? March, April, May. I understand that what has really shocked people, because this was being tracked, alerts were given out, which was fantastic, because it allowed people to seek shelter, but it was the ferocity with which it touched down. Just talk us through that. What would people have experienced?
It'll be south of where we had
yes, it's always hard. A lot of times we know that there's the chance for tornadoes, but as far as how devastating they're going to be, we don't generally know that until maybe about an hour or less sometimes before the actual tornado touches.
Mobile homes, the infrastructure was not best. I mean, people could see it was just smashed. It looked like splinters on the ground. In terms of the power that this tornado packed and the time that people would have had to seek shelter, what were their chances, and what advice would you give next?
Unfortunately, mobile homes are one of the worst places you can be when there is a tornado. And so when we have these tornadoes, especially the violent ones like what we saw last night, and they run into areas that are people live in mobile homes, that's when we're going to see those fatalities. It's just the folks a lot of times don't have anywhere else to go, and it's just not a safe place to be as in a mobile home when there's tornadoes.
The infrastructure was not best. I mean, people could see.
Well, that was a meteorologist talking to my colleague Lukasz Borak a little earlier. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced plans to station tactical nuclear weapons on the territory of its neighbour Belarus. He indicated a few months ago that some Belarusian military planes were being re-equipped to potentially carry nuclear missiles.
Unfortunately, mobile homes are one of the worst places you can be when there is a tornado. And so when we have these tornadoes, especially the violent ones like what we saw last night, and they run into areas that are people live in mobile homes, that's when we're going to see those fatalities. It's just the folks a lot of times don't have anywhere else to go, and it's just not a safe place to be as in a mobile home when there's tornadoes.
It's, of course, a development. It's a significant one.
Well, that was a meteorologist talking to my colleague Lukasz Borak a little earlier.
Russia wants to scare the West.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced plans to station tactical nuclear weapons on the territory of its neighbour Belarus. He indicated a few months ago that some Belarusian military planes were being re-equipped to potentially carry nuclear missiles.
We have already transferred to Belarus our well-known, very effective complex Iskander. It can be a delivery vehicle as well. On April the 3rd, we will start training the crews. On July the 1st, we will finish the construction of the special repository to store the tactical nuclear weapon in Belarus.
So is it a significant development, and how is it being seen in Belarus? Well, we spoke earlier to Hanna Lubakova, the Atlantic Council Fellow from Minsk.
It's, of course, a development. It's a significant one. But I think what Russia wants to do, Russia wants to blackmail the West. Russia wants to scare the West. And I think it's another sign that Belarus is becoming this really loyal, this really controlled ally. Because what Putin said is that they don't really give these weapons to Belarus. They will have deploy the weapons, but they would be controlled by Russia. So by doing this, of course, Putin is trying to threaten the West, but is also showing who is in control of Belarus.
Why would Mr. Lukashenko agree to this? He has 3 NATO borders.
I think it's also in a way for Alexander Lukashenko to show how important he is, because since 2020, because he's been saying that we would welcome these nuclear weapons in Belarus from Russia, so to sort of raise the stakes and